Hey everyone, and welcome back to another PowerShell tutorial. We'll be continuing on with the VirusTotal API. I've already went ahead and started a PowerShell module just so I can kind of talk through the code as we go, since it's not a lot of code, and kind of explain what's going on. So for the first function, the first function we wrote in our PowerShell module that I'll be pulling up in a second is around the file report. So if you look back here in the back, you see that the file report basically just pulls a report on a hash and you can supply it. So let's see here. So you can say, here's your API key, the resource to be retrieved, which is going to be a string, which is our MD5 hash. But if you look right here, the resource argument can be an MD5 SHA-1 or SHA-256, or a file which you want to retrieve the most recent antivirus report. You may also specify a scan ID returned by the file scan endpoint. So, like I said in the first video, these are basically called endpoints. They're URL endpoints. So basically this would be the endpoint right here. So VirusTotal API version 2 file/report. So these are the endpoints. So we're going to supply our API key. We're going to supply our resource, which is MD5 hash, and if we want to return additional info, which is a Boolean, we can using all info, which would be also in the URL. So the all info is only for the paid version of the API, so we won't be able to use that here. But as you can see, their documentation is pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. So what I'm going ahead and did is I took the MD5 from this example, so we have a good MD5 to search in VirusTotal, so we can actually pull data back. I tried pulling an MD5 on something else and didn't really get any good results. So we'll go ahead. This is what our example response should be. This is in JSON format. Usually dealing with APIs, sometimes you have to send stuff up in a header, which is got to be in JSON format. Sometimes it can be just a PowerShell object. It just depends on the API. So let's go ahead and look at the code. So here's our code. So basically, just made a vt module.psm1. The M stands for module. I have my function, and then I have my comments on what this is doing, an example of how it can be used. So you can look at the help, anybody can use it. It's dynamic, so I can give this to anybody that uses VirusTotal. They can just apply their API key and their hash. There's nothing that sticks just to me using this. It's universal. So we'll go ahead and we'll copy this out. I already stored my API key in a variable, so let's go ahead and grab this. I stuck this MD5 also in a variable, so we have that too. So if I do $hash, there's the MD5 522D 522D. So then we'll do our command line. So get VirusTotal hash. We say our API key, which is API key, and then our hash, which is our hash. Now, just one thing to keep in mind, that a function should only perform one task. So this function pulls back this data, and then whatever you want to do with this data, that will be another function. So if you want to export CSV, there's an export CSV function. If you want to out-grid view it. If you want to create another function that does something special with the data, you can do that. Just make sure that your functions only perform one task. So if you just want to pull the data and see it, for the time being you can. If you want to put it in a report, you can do that with another function. It's more universal. So with that being said, go ahead and run this. As you see, got the results back. It's kind of like what we have back here in the background. So as you can see back here, scans has multiple objects underneath it. If we look at scans over here, we have multiple objects underneath it too. So let's go ahead and run this again, and we'll store it in a variable. Clear. We'll store it in a data variable. Oh, clear at the end. Alright, so if we do data, same results. If we do .scans, this is how you drill into the properties of the objects. Here's all of our scans. And as you can see, they actually have contents within them too. So we can say .avast, and there's our avast scan. It's detected the version and the data. That's a little bit of how to work with an API. As you can see, it's straightforward. You know, if you're working security and your analysts want an easy tool without going out to VirusTotal all the time, you can make basically a right-click integration to their tool if you need, where they can just paste in this hash and then it does all the work on the back end if you have an enterprise account with VirusTotal or something to bring back those results. And if you have an orchestration platform, that's how all of that works too. So you can see there's a lot of engines on here. You could make another script or another function that can go through and only look at the ones that you care about, or do like an overall inspection to see the scores and kind of drill in on those, which we can work on further. But that's how that endpoint works, and we'll go into that one a little bit more in depth later on. So our next function that we'll be working on in our next video is submitting a VirusTotal file scan. So we'll be sending a file up for inspection that we'll be looking at. We'll also work on a URL where we can scan a URL if we want. So we'll pass it our API key, the query of the string, which is going to be the URL that we want to search, and then we'll get our results back. So yeah, if you have any questions or anything, please comment below. Like I said, I'll make another video in this section to kind of go more into how we can act upon the results that we got for the first function. So kind of like how we could probably use this data. We could say, all right, the total is 61, so if the total is greater than 60, then do stuff. So yeah, thanks for viewing, and hope to see you in the next video.